We are here at Right Choice Happenings Realty with Dean Allison, MP of Niagara West Conservative Party. Did I get that right?
You got it all right. Yeah, well, we've had a couple different names over the years, but currently we're called Niagara West.
Niagara West. And definitely, I am really thankful for you coming in. We've met a couple times over the past couple of years. I'm really enjoying getting to know you, and I really do appreciate you coming in here to do this.
No problem. We're pretty much neighbors, right? Almost.
Pretty much.
I mean, when you're in the country, if you're within half an hour, you're neighbors, right? Pretty
Totally.
much.
That's.
But we're closer. I think we're 10 minutes apart.
Yeah, super close. It's awesome. I appreciate it. As you know, my knowledge of politics is little, but I've been working on it, and it's people like you when I talk to that it totally interests me, and I'm happy that you're here to discuss some of this stuff.
That's great.
So I guess we'll start. You've been in politics now for quite some time. How long has it been?
So I ran originally in 2000, was not successful, so it still kept involved. And then I got elected in 2004. So it's been about 19 years and change.
That is very impressive.
It's a long time, isn't it?
2000, yeah, that's a good run.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, it wasn't always Niagara West because the territories have changed a little bit.
Yeah, when I ran first time, it was called Erie Lincoln, which went all the way down to the lake to Wainfleet, and then across the bottom, Port Colborne into Fort Erie. The boundaries change. So they sort of change every 10 years based on population, and they do a riding redistribution. So the next border change was called Niagara West Glanbrook. So what I had as part of this, I didn't have Wainfleet at that time, but what we had is parts of Grimsby, Lincoln, West Lincoln, and then we went across to Upper Stony Creek, and then we had Glanbrook as well. And then the last change we had was Niagara West, which includes Grimsby, Lincoln, West Lincoln, Pelham, and Wainfleet, and a part of West Niagara, probably the more rural parts of of St. Catharines, sorry.
Yeah, very interesting how that develops over time.
And it's going to change again.
When's the next one?
So the date of the change is supposed to be sometime this spring. Let's call it. Let's call it the end of April. Just say for argument's sake.
Right.
So if an election is held before April, it'll be on the old boundaries. If an election is held on, say, June the 1st, it'll be under the new boundaries.
And has it been determined already?
Yes, they've all been determined. They went through the whole process, they had hearings, they strike committees to all these kinds of things, and then they have a feedback and input from local mayors and from everybody. And originally we're going to lose Grimsby to Stony Creek, and then the mayor said, "Hey, we want to be part of Niagara, right? Because Grimsby is part of Niagara."
Right.
And then what happened was originally as well, one of the plans was that we would take on Dunnville as part of that. But now what's going to happen is we're going to keep everything we have. We're not going to take Dunnville. We're going to keep Grimsby, and we're going to move further into St. Catharines. So Power Glen area, sort of all that area that's, where the power center is and all the stuff in 4th Ave as it travels along the river all the way down and then cuts back across before getting into Welland.
Interesting. Those boundary adjustments, I imagine, could have different impacts during the elections, depending on the different.
You're bang on. As a matter of fact, from what I've heard, and you can dig into the math, right, in terms of seats, because all that stuff's available online. How we did in every single poll, last election, previous election, we can go through all that stuff, and it's pretty obvious. And what I've heard is that under the current boundaries, it would be better for the current Liberals. Under the new boundaries, they're going to lose a seat in Toronto, right? Because of growth outside of Toronto. And so, riding boundaries. And sometimes what happens is the boundary gets so split up that the current sitting MP has to go almost run in a different riding because it's so different, right? But Niagara here, pretty much everything will remain. I think what's going to happen is Tony Baldinelli in Niagara Falls is going to lose Fort Erie. Vance Badaway, who's now got Welland and Thorold, Port Colborne, will be taking over that. And of course, Chris Biddles and St. Catharines will lose some of that riding to me.
Interesting.
So basically the ridings pretty much remain the same.
Close.
Yeah,
pretty
close. Yeah.
So now, maybe I'll start keeping it even pretty basic. As an MP, you represent the area of Niagara West at the federal level? Because this is something that I've still been learning, the differences
fair enough.
between federal and provincial. I think I understand for the most part municipal, but you spend a lot of time up in Ottawa, right? And it's federal matters that you deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and just so I break it down for people, when I go to schools, I talk about this. Municipal is stuff like garbage, stop signs and things that the municipality does, waste management, those other kinds of things. The provincial level, we get into healthcare, we get into education, we get into universities and a bunch of stuff like that. And then the feds look after sort of the big, broader issues, trade, defense, immigration, all the things that are sort of on a national level. So if you sort of think about it, as you go through province by province, what Waynfleet does for itself or what Pelham does for itself, maybe even the region of Niagara, is different than what the province does. And then if you look at it from sort of a top down, you kind of say, well, what things would affect our country?
Yeah.
Well, obviously we need to defend it. Well, we collect taxes, we pay taxes. Okay, taxation. And then there's a whole list of things that, fall under that. But if you look at the big items, immigration, trade, finance, all these things. And of course, provinces have similar things as well. You've got a minister when it comes to what's going on at the provincial level. And of course, at the municipal level, you always have financial interests as well. They may be called different titles, may do different things, but they look after basically the same things as it relates to their area.
Right. And something that I just learned, and actually I haven't put it out yet. Like I mentioned to you, I had Bobby Ann Brady on, independent MPP, Haldeman Norfolk. Something that I didn't know, I just learned before, that there is a difference, even though I'm sure there's similarities. It's not exactly the same, the Conservative Party federal level and then the Progressive Conservatives at the...
Correct.
It's not exactly the same lining of beliefs. Because to me, this is how simple I am. I see the colors.
Yeah.
And I see blue and blue. And I always thought, I didn't even know that there was PC. I always thought it was just conservative. This is how I've been learning. That's why I love having people like you talking to you so I can understand. Because to me, with politics, part of the hard thing is it's pretty confusing.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm trying to get clarity.
You also think about it, for most of our lives as we grow up, politics seems to be the least thing that will affect our lives. I got to get an education. I got to get a job. I got to raise a family, whatever you're going to do. You never think about politics. And let's be honest. If you're in school, you're trying to build your career, you don't have time. Once you start your career, you're trying to build your career.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have a lot of time. And what I tell students when I go to talk to the schools, and I'm going to one this week, as a matter of fact, I tell them that, believe it or not, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you want to pay attention to it, politics affects all of our lives in such a huge way. And I always tell people that it's important to get involved at the local level, whatever, and even getting involved in service clubs and organizations is getting involved in the community. And I think that is so important. And I think it's important because a lot of people, and there's a lot of things that happen in politics, right? We pass bills, and who talks about it? What is it? I could talk to you about Bill C11, C18. C11, could possibly affect you because that's the CRTC regulating podcast.
Yeah.
So, once again, you may not think because maybe you weren't doing a podcast 6 months ago, but now all of a sudden these things affect your life potentially.
Totally.
So I always tell people, I get it's kind of boring. It doesn't seem like it affects you, but it's really important and incumbent to learn about what various levels of governments are responsible for what, et cetera, et cetera. I have people come into my office all the time. And they say, hey, Dean, I need help. I had a guy come into my office today and want to talk about HR issues. I'm not an HR guy. He was let go or he was dealing with severance. He was just dealing with issues of termination.
Yeah.
That's not my area of jurisdiction, but that will not stop me from talking to him and maybe hopefully pointing him in the right direction.
That's awesome.
I will talk to people about anything for any reason because a lot of times people may recognize the federal MP or know who they are, but have no idea who the councillors are, maybe not know who the member of provincial parliament is. That's why we always talk to them. I remember one time we had a lady, we had a family come in to see us who had a deaf child, and they wanted a stop sign, not a stop sign, but a sign on the street, was warning there was a deaf child. And we worked with them and work obviously with the municipality, right? Because they're the ones that are responsible for that, and help them get that. But they didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
And so what are we going to say? No, it's not our responsibility. Go talk to the town. We just sort of worked with them, and we do that for every issue, even though there's not a lot we can do when it comes to some of these other issues, except maybe try to encourage them, give them advice, or point them in the right direction.
Yeah, some guidance. Yeah, I imagine that a lot of the people this is me just speculating, that a lot of people, they come to you more with problems than saying the good stuff. You must get a little bit more of that, people running into problems.
Oh no, absolutely, and that's why we're there. If the government bureaucracy were always doing everything that they should be doing, we probably would be without a job, right? We're helping people with problems that they just can't get solved. I love to tell this story. I had, do you know Roy Green, the Roy Green Show? He's a commentator. I think he's in Montreal. He was in Toronto, Hamilton before. Right. He's got a show. He called me up one time and he said, Dean, we're doing this show. This lady has been declared dead. She's on the show with me right now. Every time she goes to CRA, they say, I'm sorry, you're dead. She couldn't get supports for her kids, any of the programs that are available.
She's dead in the government's eyes.
In the government's eyes. She showed up at their office and said, hey, I'm not dead. They said, no, you're dead. And so I had a friend at the time that was working at CRA, and I just said, look, would you have a look at this, please? And we have contacts at CRA that help us out. Right. That's what I say. I don't have those same contacts at the province. And I said, I'm talking to this lady. Would you do me a favor? And sure enough, the wrong box had been ticked. Oh, no. They unticked that box, and miraculously, she was brought back to life before the end of his radio show. It was fantastic.
That's
and
awesome.
It was kind of cute that he actually called me. I've been on a show a few times, and he called me to help him with this issue. I'm thinking, boy, he must have been thinking, I hope we can get this solved before the end of the show.
Wow. That's quite the situation she was in.
But that's, it's bureaucracy and it's governments, right?
Yeah.
You go to build a house, you built a house, I built a house. The bureaucracy is insane. You try and get answers. That's just at the local level. Then if you talk, you tag on what's going on at provincial and federally on any issue, boy, it can be very difficult very quick.
I can only imagine, because in my experience, dealing with government isn't always a quick thing to happen. And, something that I had told Bobby Ann before, but I'll say it now, and I'm pretty sure I've said it to you. I lean way more right than left. I'm definitely more blue, but like I've told you before, there's not one person on this planet I agree with everything.
Absolutely. How could there be?
Yeah, I can't.
I don't always agree with my party and everything, right? There's a lot of people that don't. But, at the end of the day, it's a team sport. You work out the differences. Maybe you can get a conclusion. Yeah. We're always hashing stuff out in caucus all the time. I can remember with...
what's caucus?
Great idea. Great question. So caucus is all the members of the party. Yeah. So the Liberals have a caucus, would involve every elected member of Parliament for the Liberal Party. We have a caucus. It's got around 118, 19, whatever, how many people we had elected. The NDP
only you guys.
Only us. It's our caucus. And all of us, all the parties meet on Wednesday mornings. I also
together or separate?
No, absolutely separate.
Separately. Gotcha.
So I also have an Ontario caucus where I meet with all my Conservative colleagues that have been elected in the province. I got guys from Thunder Bay, or North Bay, all the way over there. I've got people from all over the province, and we have a chance to talk about issues. And it's like, hey, Dean, I got the same issue, or whatever the case. And then we go to National Caucus, where you got a chance to talk to people, and some people's issues in Vancouver may not be the same as someone's issues in PEI. It's an amazing experience as we talk about this stuff, try and find commonality of what's important and what we're hearing on the ground to actually try and move the ball forward.
And see, that's something that's completely different with you guys, because you have almost like a home field advantage going up to Ottawa. It's not as far as there's...
Oh, I'm so lucky. Oh, absolutely lucky.
I didn't even really think about that. BC MPs.
Northern BC.
They fly in.
Absolutely.
They have to do, that's a commute.
It's almost a 2-day trip sometimes, depending on availability of flights. I've got a guy.
I wasn't even thinking about the logistics of that part.
Well, I got a guy from Saskatchewan. His name is Jeremy Patzer. Yeah. He doesn't even have the largest riding in Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. From one corner to the other corner of his riding, 5.5 to 6 hour drive.
Wow.
And he doesn't even have the largest riding in Saskatchewan. So I look at my riding. I'll just give you some context. Yeah. My riding's around 1,000 square meters. Mm-hmm. All the rest of the Niagara ridings put together, Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, Niagara Center, equal up to 1,000, just under 1,000. So I've got the largest riding in Niagara.
Interesting.
So between all of Niagara, my riding at 1,000, the rest of Niagara just under 1,000, so we'll call it 2,000 square meters. His riding was 77,000 square meters. 77,000.
What?
Isn't that insane? So you look at the geography of where people got to come from, and then you also look at what some of these rural northern Liberal, NDP, Conservative members have to deal with. Think about coming from northern BC, where you can't get a direct flight to Ottawa. You probably got to fly on some kind of a regional air back to Vancouver. You got to go Vancouver. You may get a direct flight, but there's not many. Then you got to go to Toronto, and then Toronto, you got to go. And so some guys, some ladies can take 1 to 2 days to get home. And that's why when we have a break week, like we do this week for Remembrance Week, people say, no, you guys take the week because it is complicated. Some people, so when we're up there, we'll be there 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time in a stretch. Some people from those northern places will stay because it takes them 2 days to get there and 2 days to get home. It's just not worth it.
Wow.
And that's why you hit the nail on the head. I'm in Niagara. I told you my friend, Jeremy, 5.5, 6 hours to drive across this. In 5.5 hours, I could be in Ottawa.
Seriously?
And I don't have to fly. I can drive and determine what time I want to come and leave and all those kinds of things. And I can take the train. I can fly. I can take the bus. I mean, I got all kinds of options.
Yeah, that we're in a good spot to be commuting out.
We're fortunate here in Ontario. Absolutely.
Wow. See, I only thought about that a little bit, but I didn't think about how crazy some of the areas were. And the territories have representatives as well.
Absolutely. Every single one of them. Really? So you think of how much more complicated it is to get from Yukon, right?
Holy moly.
Northwest Territory, right?
And you said that you guys have like 3 weeks at a stretch sometimes?
Yeah, usually it's 3 to 4 weeks at a stretch.
So the MPs coming in, they're spending a lot of time away from their family. And
absolutely.
Wow.
It's a huge sacrifice, right?
Yeah, see, that's interesting.
And it's different. See, so if you think about regional government, all the mayors, you got 12 mayors, 12 municipalities, all go to regional council. What is the longest drive? Half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour tops.
Yeah.
So then you look at the province of Ontario. It's a big province, right? I mean, it's a good sized province. All those people. See, if you're in the government in Vancouver, in BC, you got to go to Victoria. So almost everyone's probably got to fly over there for government.
Right.
So, Quebec, they all got to go to Quebec City. That's where the head of government is in Quebec. So if you look at that, Ontario and Toronto is pretty centralized, and all flights come to Toronto, right?
Yeah.
So getting to Toronto is not too bad, not a bad thing for those that are provincially. But once again, if we're looking at federal stuff, wow, it's a different ballgame altogether.
Wow. So now I really appreciate in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be coming up to visit.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm like, I'm ultra looking forward to it because I've been, I think once when I was in high school doing the Ottawa trip, I wasn't paying attention to anything. I think we went in, I think we took a little peek around, but this time now with just my more interest growing in politics, I'm like really looking forward to it. What's that? What's it going to be like? I know you told me a little bit, but
here's what's going on. I got committee that day. So I was thinking I should bring you to committee just to see what that happens.
Yeah.
How that happens. Yes, we'll do that. And so what we'll do, we'll try and get you there early in the morning. So the House of Commons does not start on Mondays until 11 a.m. I've got a committee that starts at 11 a.m. So anytime before 11, like before 10:30, we can get on the floor of the House of Commons. So we can have you sit in the Prime Minister's chair. We can have you sit in the Speaker's chair. We can have you sit in my chair. We can have you sit in the Leader of the Official Opposition.
I can sit in these chairs?
Because we're not in session.
Wow.
Once we're in session, nobody can go on the floor. It's a huge
I don't expect.
So then we can go to my committee and we'll just to see what a committee, how it works and the spontaneous translation, all this kind of stuff that's pretty cool and neat how it works. And then I'm going to take you to my favorite pizza place up there.
Let's
Call
go.
it A Pizza, baby. We'll do that. And then we'll bring you back for question period. And we'll figure all that stuff out. Usually our committee is not too long, so we get through business quickly. And we're actually bringing Bill Blair, who's the Minister for Public Safety, to the committee. So that's unique as well.
Wow.
So you get a chance to see that.
That's cool.
And then we can do question period. And then I'm happy to tour you. Like I can tour you to see, what committee rooms look like, what, our gym looks like, whatever you want or whatever you don't want. It's all going to be behind the scenes. The tour you're going to get is not the one that the normal people get. So
what would happen if somebody did want a tour? How would that work?
So first of all, they don't do tours during the week at all. They do on, I think, maybe the weekends and maybe during the summer. But we're in West Block, and the House of Commons, the chamber, I think is spectacular. But West Block is not nearly as impressive as Center Block, which has been closed for renovation. It's going to be closed for 10 to 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So we'll have to bring you back when it reopens, but I don't know. Government being done on time and on budget. Like who knows? But I can show you the
make
big
those jokes too.
Oh, all the time. Oh my goodness. One of the 7 words most feared by every business person on earth. I'm from the government and I'm here to help, right? Those are the worst. Those to strike fear into anybody. I can assure you that. I'll show you the big hole. There's a big hole in front of that goes down 3, 4, 5 stories. I'll show you the big hole that they're digging right now from my office, and we'll go up close and look in to see how far.
What's that all about?
It's part of the renovations.
What's
they're rebuilding? They're doing a welcome center. They're moving a whole bunch of things around. Gotcha. You can see some of the details online if you punch in Parliament renovations. You can Google that stuff and get some information. I'm not sure how much they give you, but they'll give you some for sure.
There.
Yeah,
that's super interesting. So to rewind it back to even when you first ran, and I appreciate how you mentioned you ran first time unsuccessfully, but what sparked you to get into this? What were you doing before? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. So I out of university, I went to work for this little company called Tim Hortons. And at that time, it was
a little company.
At that time, it had less than 500 restaurants. Right when I started, I think there's between 400 and 500. So that's not huge, but man, it's got like thousands of restaurants now. And I had a chance to work with them, be a district manager, worked in the training center. I did all kinds of stuff for them, operations rep. None of those titles would mean anything to you, but basically I went around the country training people how to open new restaurants.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It was awesome. I loved it. We worked like animals. Like we worked 12 hours a day, 14 days in a row. It was crazy. And then we got to accumulate some time. We get 2 or 3 weeks off.
Oh,
but if we were really busy with store openings, we'd be nonstop, go. It'd be crazy. But it happens. It was pretty cool.
And Tim Hortons is coast to coast, right?
Oh, coast to coast in the States and the UK and a bunch of different places. They're all over the place now,
Wow.
Yeah. Really growing like crazy. So we did that for a while. And then I had a chance, Wendy's at the time, under Ron Joyce, was thinking about buying Wendy's. Mm-hmm. Ron Joyce and Dave Thomas, the owner and founder of Wendy's, were good friends. They actually lived across the street from each other in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. And so they weren't sure what they were going to do. And so what happened was Tim Hortons bought a Wendy's to run it, to understand the numbers. And I ran that, and I was looking after the Wendy's piece. And my first restaurant that we opened was in Beamsville at the food court on the highway. Mm-hmm. And so we opened one, and then we opened a couple. Anyways, I wanted to be a franchisee. Mm-hmm. And so then I had a chance to buy one Wendy's, then a couple, then 3, then 4. And then with my wife, we bought a couple of Tim Hortons. So we had a bunch of Tim Hortons and Wendy's. We had a couple bagel stores as well. So we had 9 restaurants in total.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so we did that for a while. And then, so why I got into politics is because I'm a small business guy.
Yeah.
Like you're a small business guy. And I think that one of the things we do a terrible job on in this country is encouraging and spurring on small business. As a matter of fact, small business since COVID has been getting hammered. Yeah, and I think that they've never had so many bankruptcies since in the last 2 years since COVID, but now even last year, they're up 30% again. Like it's incredible. Yeah, small business people are getting crushed. And the reason why that's so important, you and I know small business people help create wealth.
Totally.
That's what they do. And there was a report put out where the Fraser Institute quoted, other people have done the research. And one of the challenges are we have got one of the lowest GDP per individual, which really talks about the wealth of the country. And it's so bad that we are probably going back to the 30s with how bad our purchasing power is. Right now, and there's no end in sight. They predict that we're going to be one of the worst in the world until 2060. And what's the reason behind that?
Until 2060?
2060, under the current way we're going. And why is that important? It's important because small businesses are failing, small businesses are struggling, and small businesses are the ones that actually create wealth. If we look at how many people are hired, I think we need, I don't remember, I got so many numbers floating around in my head, but the federal government over the last number of years actually hired 30% of all new hires.
Oh, wow.
And in lower levels of government, 20%, that kind of stuff. So the reality is we don't need to add more bureaucratic jobs.
Yeah.
And we added hundreds of thousands of jobs for federal employees during COVID and after COVID. And my question to you would be, do we feel like our service is any better? And so the challenge is we got to do a better job encouraging small businesses. I wish we were doing a better job encouraging kids in school to start small businesses. And so the investment is down, and it's down everywhere. And the reality is that we're actually investing, something like 78 cents per the dollar per person in Canada. And the US is investing over $1. And now it's gotten even worse, like it's 55 cents. So there's a whole combination of things without confusing people with too many numbers. But we've got to do a better job with our small business community.
How do we do it? How do we?
Well, I think there's 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
We've overregulated. I don't need to tell you how difficult it is to build a home.
No.
And it's not just federal regs, it's provincial regs and municipalities are some of the worst people when it comes to regulations.
Totally.
They're
Why
insane.
is it that way?
And we haven't even talked about any of the Escarpment Commission or, what is the other one? The
NPCA.
All these places. What's that stand for again?
Niagara Peninsula Conservation.
Conservation, where you have to get approval from these guys.
Oh, yeah.
So
There's
I think the
many layers.
regulation and red tape is number one. Or maybe not number one, but is one of the
right
things.
Up there, yeah.
Now we've got interest rates going up, which is going to hurt all small businesses for lending.
Yeah.
So regulation is important. Access to capital is huge. It's huge, huge, huge. And I think if we, how many times have you heard stories of businesses starting up and getting seed capital from the States, and then what grows to a thing, where do they go? They end up leaving. They go to the States, right? Yeah. Because it's just a better environment. Yeah.
That's all right.
So all good. These things, there's a number of things, in taxation, it's great that we have a small business tax that's more reasonable than it is for corporate tax, but it's still too high. And, we got carbon taxes now, which is killing everybody. There's a whole bunch of things they create problems for. But
is that going to go away when you guys get
absolutely 100%. Let me just talk about what's local.
Yeah.
So the Zondervelds, I think you know them. They farm in the area here.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to them when the war in Ukraine started. And all of a sudden we decided, as in the government, the Liberals, that we're going to tariff fertilizer. So I want you to think about this for a second. What is a tariff? What does a tariff sound like? Who pays for that? Who pays a tariff?
Tariff's a tax of some sort.
It is a tax, but who pays it?
I'm not sure.
Exactly. So what happens? They say tariff is just a cute word for tax. So what they did to the Zondervelds and every other farmer on the planet in Canada was they put a tariff on their fertilizer. So basically said, okay,
why? What was that for?
Because Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
So instead of being reasonable and not stupid, what they decided to do was to say, we're going to tax you for the fertilizer. All they're saying is, we pay for our fertilizer a year in advance. We got to book it. If you had told us, like even given us some cover, we get it. You don't want us to do business with Russia. There's other places we can buy fertilizer. So guess what? The Zondervelds and other farmers have to pay that tax, which means the food costs more. And they get sent on to us and we have to pay more, or then he's got to make it up somewhere else. This is insane. And the same thing with the carbon tax when it comes to people that want to heat their barns and cool their barns, as well as dry their grain. We don't have as much grain drying around here. That's more a bigger issue in the West. All it does is put up the price of food.
That's part of inflation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you start looking at all these things, farmers are small business people.
Totally.
Trying to do that stuff. And so when you make regulations tough, building a home, I don't even want to know what you guys paid for development fees here.
It's when I did it, I got off a little bit lucky, but
you're also lucky it's rural, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's different than if you're within any city limit, right?
You got to pay higher development charges, but I think it's around 40,000.
Yeah,
maybe 50,000.
50,000 plus
so
HST
to get the shovel in the ground.
Right, in a home now, $1 million. I mean, because the price of homes have all doubled.
Yeah,
$1 million on a new home, which that's another 13%. So you take 50,000 and you take 13% would be 130,000. That's $180,000.
It's a lot of money.
That's before you built your own house.
It's a lot of
That's
money.
insane. So I think, we have these taxes everywhere, right? They're everywhere. Excise tax on
Are
wine.
we one of the highest tax countries?
I think we got to be. I think I was looking at Tax Freedom Day the other day, and it's like June the 23rd. So think about that. We work 6 months for the government. That's insane.
Oh,
and so what conservatives believe is less government, because when you hire 200,000 or 300,000 extra bureaucrats, you and I have got to pay for them. So conservatives fundamentally believe in less government and more power to people to do well. We want people to do well and to raise themselves up and be able to do a good job. and be prosperous. Like, and so that's the challenge, right?
See, that sounds good to me, less government, but I can see where sometimes that will not be a popular thing, especially for people that work for the government, because then they start getting worried about their jobs.
Well, I guess, at the end of the day, what did we do before they hired the 200,000 or 300,000? Were we surviving? Okay. Like,
right.
It's got to be within reason. Like I said, when we were doing our deficit reduction, we didn't fire people. We just, when people's contracts were done and retired, we didn't renew them at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they've got temporary contracts. They got all kinds of stuff all the time. But like I said, when COVID ended and people wanted to get passports, you were waiting weeks and months. My office was going crazy with people calling saying, I got a trip booked and I've been trying to get a passport for 6 months. Now it's all back. They've got it all figured out now.
That's so crazy.
But those are the kind of things that we're talking about. And that's within reason, right? At the end of the day, what do you and I have to do as private business? We got to manage our resources. We just can't spend whatever we want to spend. And that's the challenge. And then deficits are another thing, right? I mean, they took this deficit from, $500 or $600 million, $500 or $600 billion, and went to 1.2 trillion. So
that's actually, like, sometimes I hear stuff like that, and I don't know if it's true or not.
It's absolutely true. And
the deficit actually went up that much,
doubled. This Prime Minister Trudeau spent more money than every prime minister in the history of the country since we formed a dominion, like since we became a country.
That's so crazy.
It's insane. And so, people say, well,
is there a money tree in Canada that I'm unaware of?
Well, it is. It's your back pocket. You are unaware of it because they're picking your pocket right now. That's exactly what's going on. They're so sleight of hand, right? Yeah, look at this over here, and you're in your pocket over here. So yeah, so these are all things that make a difference. And people say, well, you talked about, it's not just managing the budget; it's also wasteful items. Like we're hearing scandals with science development technology, SDTC, $1 billion. People are giving money to their own firms. The ArriveCan app, $54 million. They gave a sole source contract to 2 guys that have no staff for $11 million. So you think about these things. I
missed that tender, I guess.
You totally missed that tender because I'm sure you could find some IT people to develop that app for not for $54 million, but you got things like that. You've got the vaccine facility they put money into, and originally we thought it was $150 million, but then it turned out to be $300 million.
Wow.
So these are all like these guys have got. Government is stewards of your money. Of my money, we got to do a better job. And if you're not doing a good job, I say fire the bums and get somebody else in. And you know what? If those people don't do it, then you hold them accountable. That's what a democracy is about, right? If you're not doing your job, you get to vote people out.
It seems like accountability isn't always in place in government. It seems like there's a lot of people that can, I guess, get away with making bad decisions and not being accountable for them, and that's part of the bloat and everything. It's refreshing hearing you being on that side saying these things.
No, it's important. One of the things that we did when we were government was we cut taxes because once again, I could bring you charts to show more people had more money in their pockets. If you talk to most people today, you wouldn't. I don't think you get that sense of feeling.
Yeah,
people are. We read stories. We hear stories of people making 100, 150,000 in a city, barely able to get by. Since when was that ever a thing?
That's so crazy.
And that's not many people can make that kind of cash.
That's so crazy.
Right? So that's what I talked about when it comes to what's going on with people's wages. Not since 1930 and the Great Depression. And the forecast is bleak unless we make some changes in this country.
See, I don't love taxes at all, but there's a place for them.
Absolutely.
And there's a right amount to be able to have our economy and our community and cultures to work.
100%. I don't think most people in Canada actually deny or would deny paying taxes to pay. The question is what's reasonable.
And how does it get used? Reasonable and what gets used because...
And are people going to be accountable for your dollars?
So this is... I didn't know how quick we were going to dive into things, but if we're talking about these things... things that I don't really think about when I see it on the news because I don't follow politics on the news much. I use it when I hear stuff as just surface level. I don't take it as fact. I don't necessarily believe it.
You don't know. You haven't looked into it to see where the information came from. Is it spin or right?
Right.
Yeah.
And when I hear something and I never really used to think about it much because it's so far detached, but when the government has decided to send 60 million to another country for whatever, a war or whatever. And I've never really thought about it much because I don't know how much money our government has or this deficit or whatever. But then sometimes, like, I remember thinking, like, you know, we could have really used that for something else. But then I also think to myself, I don't know what we actually need or not because I'm not there to look at things.
Well, and you're right. You know, as a rich country, as a G7 country,
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to help other countries out.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did, we were sending money originally, aid.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what was happening was it was getting caught up with governments and it wasn't getting to the people. So we untied the aid and made sure it went to organizations like Red Cross,
Mm-hmm.
humanitarian organizations that we know are effective to make sure that aid actually was getting to the ground. So that's a situation of making sure that you're making people accountable.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, right? And so what politics is about is debating how much money that should be, right? I may say, it should be 10 billion. You may say it should be 100 billion, and maybe we go from there. Obviously, that's why we need to help people that are less fortunate in this country as well, right? We got a tremendous opioid crisis going on right now. It's insane. I read a stat that in Halton, Durham, opioid deaths are up 700%.
Wow.
And we got a government that gives out hard drugs for free and is driving the price of hard drugs down on the street because of their giving hard drugs. So what's the answer? Oh, you guys are bad. You shouldn't do it. How about treatment? They're doing it in Alberta. We've committed to do that. Mm-hmm. We believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that we need to try and get people the help they need. People are dying, and we're going to go after, we spent $100 million on consultants that, we're looking at like ramping this whole drug crisis up. Their big pharma's being sued in the States for their, what they did with the opioid crisis. So when you take any topic, like you said, and you dig in the layers and find out what's going on, it's like, we need to figure this out. I don't believe, and our party doesn't believe that giving people hard drugs. There's a lot of, I know docs that run methadone clinics in Niagara that's trying to help them get off drugs. Right. Not giving them hard drugs. And have you ever been to Vancouver's East Side?
No.
I highly recommend it. When I go to Vancouver for business or visit family, I always take who's ever with me to Vancouver's East Side. And the carnage is unforgettable. Like it's the saddest thing you've ever seen. People high on the streets, spaced out. And we've got to try and get these people treatment. So once again, people say, well, what's the difference between you guys and the other guys? I say, well, one wants to give them hard drugs. The other one wants to try and help them.
Right.
And I think that makes some sense. I mean, we haven't had tons of beds available for people in the past, right? We kind of, we do criminalize them, right? Like whatever the state. I don't think we should be doing that. But I also don't think you should read some of the stories near some of these clinics, safe injection sites in Toronto. Yeah. I got a great article I'll flip to you by guys that like the people, they don't feel safe in their own neighborhoods now.
Really?
It's just out of control. And the drug dealers are actually dealing right on the site.
Really?
Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff that you and I and Wayne Fleet and Gellum, we don't actually have to experience. We never see it. We're so isolated from it and would never experience it unless we were in those places. Like I said, there's been just some heart-wrenching articles that have been written. So there's something we can do about that. And I think that if we look at, opioid deaths of being up 700%, then obviously that's not working. That's what they've been doing for the last number of years. It's time to change the path on that.
And the reason, or one of the things contributing to this is that the government had changed. What was it that made that happen? Well,
they decided that, people weren't safe shooting up on the streets. And so they wanted to provide a safe place for them. So come on in out of the cold. It's a safe injection site. And they got them in known places. And if you talk to people in the areas where these are, none of the neighborhoods want them at the end of the day, but it's not up to them. They decide. And the challenge is how it's dealt with, right? So once again, instead of giving them a safe place to shoot up, how about giving them a safe place to try and get healed? Right. I think that's what, I think that's really what we need to do.
You guys have to deal with some tough stuff. Eh?
Oh man, the crazy stuff. I mean, there's like 1,000 issues. And every issue you got to scrape under the surface because, I see a headline It's not necessarily what's really going on. Just like you said, you're skeptical of what you see. But you got to go dig deep and then find out both sides. And the initial reaction, oh, I know the answer to that. But you don't, because you don't necessarily.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's so easy. Like, I'm sure you hear, but I'm like, no, not in your bubble. But there's always criticisms of the government, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And people have their solutions and everything. And I won't even say that I haven't contributed to that. But one thing that I know is there's a ton of shit that I don't know what's going on. And like hearing you talk about these things, like I have like some criticisms over things, but I have no idea how it actually works. And that's why I like going to parliament and talking, because there's so many different layers to these problems.
100%, right? And it's like it's like an onion, right? At the end of the day, you think, well, it's just simple, just do A, B, or C.
Right.
We may need to do A and C and F, right, to try and fix this problem.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about, we haven't talked about trade issues. We haven't talked about trade corridors. We haven't talked about trade infrastructure to get our products to market. Right. All these things that helps keep the country going, right? Like, we're just talking about some domestic issues right now. Crime's another thing. Crime's growing. I mean, you see the amount of stolen vehicles that are happening in the area. My cars are always in my garage. So I'm guessing you do the same thing.
Same thing.
But you realize this is how crazy, we believe in jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders. Let me say that again. We believe in jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders. You realize 1 year in Vancouver, there were 40 people. Ready for this? I'm going to blow you away with this one. There was 40 people arrested over 6,000 times.
What?
The same 40 people.
6,000?
Same 40 people were arrested.
6,000?
6,000? I can't even get my head around that. Someone's getting arrested every day, it seems like.
Sometimes multiple times a day. That's crazy.
Okay, so repeat violent offenders.
Yeah.
If you look at what's going on in Edmonton and Calgary, last year or the year before, 26 homicides for a repeat violent offender out on bail.
Yikes.
Homicide. Calgary, 24.
Wow.
Where people were killed because they were out on bail. Once again, we're not saying you lock everybody. We believe in restorative justice and making sure people make mistakes and all that stuff. I'm talking about those people that don't seem to care any more than just damage, carnage, and taking people's lives. I mean, we know some police have actually been shot from someone out on bail as well.
Is prison and stuff like that, is that federal or provincial?
That's federal. You got both, right?
There's
province
both?
Has provincial. We got federal penitentiaries as well.
What would be the difference?
So this is simplistic, but sort of 2 years less a day kind of thing. Some misdemeanor type stuff.
Yeah,
but provincial more than 2 years.
Then it goes to federal.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then in the States, is there private jailing? Do you know this?
I don't know much about the system, but there's definitely private jails in the States.
But over here, it's not.
No, all run by the government.
It's all government run, whether it be federal, provincial, and it's taken care by that. That's interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, you touched a little bit on trade. I mean, if we're going to be digging into stuff, I love it. I'm trying to think from a country perspective. It must be good to be exporting things.
We have to. That's how we survive. Like, we got such a small country, 30 million people, right?
Yeah,
approximately.
Population-wise, yeah.
We're never going to use all the stuff we need.
Yeah.
So being able to export to which our biggest exporter is obviously the U.S., right? It's got 10 times our population. That helps create wealth. That's part of creating wealth. You think of an SME in Niagara or anywhere. Let's say Niagara because we're in Niagara now.
SME.
Small and medium-sized enterprise.
Yeah.
Thank you, because we use way too many acronyms. And what the heck are you talking about? You talk about a small business that's got 10 or 12 people.
Yeah.
That's doing what they can, but let's be honest, maybe what they sell no one uses in Niagara. So they export to the rest of the country, but they can export those goods to the US. They got a market 10 times the size of what's going on here, right?
And then that's great for the country because when you're exporting stuff, the resources going out and we've got money coming back in.
They're getting paid. They're making money. They're paying taxes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it.
So that's important. But there's a number of things I think that, so we've done trade deals, right? To access markets. We need, you think of where we've got a lot of natural resources, right? Oil and gas, natural gas, LNG, wood, all these things.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, if you look at LNG or natural gas, what's going on is countries around the world need our gas, our LNG. And this current government's blocked all that. So you think about it, you've got China building 2 or 3 coal-fired plants a week. So if we shut down everything in this country, Canada produces about 1.5 of all emissions in the world. 1.5.
Percent?
1.5% out of 100%.
Wow.
China's over 30. You got China, you got Russia, you got USA, all the big emitters. If we shut down our whole industry, it wouldn't make a difference. What we need to do is we need to get that oil and gas, more particularly gas, to places like China to get them off their coal-fired plants. We're shutting down coal-fired plants. They're opening them faster than we're shutting them down.
So how do we do that? We
got to build pipelines and things like that. This current government doesn't want pipelines. It's like, they want to make sure they punish us.
So
see,
what?
the carbon tax. Why is there a carbon tax?
Because they need more money to pay for their frivolous
But why did they tell
spending.
us? Exactly. It's a lot of money. But why do they tell us we have a carbon tax? To help the environment.
Is that what they say?
No,
I just know that they need more money because they're spending it too crazy.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly it. So
they're saying it's for the environment.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And yet, in the last environmental report, Canada placed 63 or 57 out of 63 countries.
Really?
We're the only G7 country that didn't reduce emissions.
Really?
So what we've been saying, our environmental plan is use technology, not taxes. So at the end of the day, what you see is they're saying, well, if you keep just pay more carbon tax, well, mysteriously emissions will go down. Why they ask you to pay a carbon tax is they want to punish you so much you stop doing what you're doing. So how does that work out for guys like you and I that live in the country? We got to drive to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, totally.
We got to drive to go to work. We got to drive to go anywhere, right? To school. Our kids got to, whatever the case is. So the reality is we need to find other ways. And technology, we know how technology is evolving. We've solved a ton of problems over the last number of years because of technology.
So I got to interrupt with this part.
Yeah.
They bring in the carbon tax. You say that they were saying it was for the environment.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I was thinking. It doesn't sound like what it's for. It's to generate some money
100%.
because of frivolous spending, I'm guessing. But
Right.
have they said what they're supposed to be using that money for? That's the thing that I never fully understand too with taxes and everything. When there's a tax or a tariff or whatever, anything you want to call it, is that money supposed to be like used for something specific, or does it just go into the pool, the deficit hole?
The big pit of government, empty pit of general revenues. General revenues, yeah. So it just goes in there along with our income tax and everything else. Yeah.
So it's just general. It's not like that carbon tax is specifically supposed to be for, I don't know, planting trees or whatever it is.
Well, they may use that for planting trees, but they'll use whatever, right?
It goes into that big pool.
Yeah, it goes into their fiscal pot.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but they've been telling everybody that the reason why they're doing it is to save the environment, but it's just not true.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head, and it's funny. You don't necessarily pay strict attention to that stuff, but intuitively what it was right off the bat.
Well, that's just
all
what makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if they cared about the environment, there's things that they would do instead of just trying to collect money from people that are hurting.
They're going to quadruple it over time, right? So they're going to take it from 16 cents to 64 cents a liter.
It's so crazy.
We're going to be having like $2 gas, $2, $3 a liter gas.
But when you guys get in, which is when again? 2026?
No, so there's supposed to be an election every 4 years. We got a minority government that could change at any time. So the next election is scheduled for the fall.
Upcoming?
Fall of 2025.
25. Yeah.
There's always a possibility we could have
2 years. Yeah.
There's always a possibility we could have a quick election. You never know what's going to happen.
Because it's a minority.
Yeah, absolutely. Minorities typically last around 2.3 years.
So it might happen sooner.
We could. There's nothing to say that they couldn't go the full time. We see that they've had the support of the NDP. In the last vote, they had the support of the Bloc. So as long as they have one of the 3 opposition parties to support them, they can keep going as long as they want, right? As long as they get one of the 3 opposition parties.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, we're deep into stuff. I like it. The last time there was an election was during COVID.
Yeah.
And he called it during COVID.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, I would lean way more right, but it seemed like a smart play on their half to call it at that time.
Yeah, I think they were trying to everyone was like locked in their homes.
Yeah, there's all
it
this
wasn't anything
distractions.
It was a lot of distractions. So I think he figured that he would, pull a fast one and win, but ended up with exactly the same result within 1 or 2 seats.
Really?
We got the same number of seats within 1 or 2, and it was still a minority government. Nothing changed, but basically nothing changed.
So why is it that when there's a minority, an election happens sooner? Because they're trying to get a majority.
Absolutely, for them, absolutely. When we were in government, 2004, the Libs were.
Oh yeah.
2004.
You've been in long enough.
I've had 7 elections, and only 2 of them were majorities. 5 of them were minority governments. 5 out of 7.
And you guys were in control.
So in 2004, Paul Martin won a minority government.
In 2004, that's when you got in.
Oh, so I got in.
Yeah.
Only minority. And then the opposition defeated them because we're still talking about the sponsorship scandal a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then 2006, we got a minority. And then we got defeated. And then we got another election in 2008. And we still had a minority, but a better minority. Wow. And then we got defeated in 2011, and we got a majority.
A majority.
Took us 3 tries to get a majority.
In what year?
2011.
11.
Yeah.
So that lasted for 4 years.
Yep, to 2015, and that's when.
Wow.
That guy got in.
See, because I haven't been paying attention to politics much until because I got into real estate about 10 years ago. So around the time I started my for real career, I started being more conscious of what's going on in politics. And at that time was just at the end, because 10 years ago, that was about 12, 13. So it's just the end.
Yeah, end of our majority.
Yeah, so right around the time I started paying attention, Liberals came in. And it almost feels like to me, my whole life has been that way because that's just like how long I've been paying attention.
That makes total sense.
So I'm optimistic for the next one for you guys to get in, but this is Joe Honest. I know that it's a tough ship to turn around, and even with you guys in, I know that it's not going to be a flip of the switch.
Let's remember our economy is not in great shape. Economies around the world are not in great shape. We're dealing with inflation that's almost 4%, but and that's inflation on top of inflation, right? It's still high. We look at the price of homes have doubled. Rents have almost doubled. It's really tough for people out there. I don't know how people in the market. It used to be you save 25 years to pay for your home.
Yeah.
Now you need to save 25 years just to come up with a down payment.
I know it's
crazy. And it makes it really hard for people to get in the market. And if you look at that, that's why we got a lot of carnage going on around the world. Like in Halifax, you realize there's 25 homeless encampments in Halifax. 25.
That sounds like a lot. What's a homeless encampment?
It's where a bunch of people that don't have homes live in tents outside.
Oh,
and Halifax is not a warm place. Yes.
Wow.
25 of them.
25? Yikes.
And you go any city, any major city, you're going to find in certain places you're going to see 10 cities. So that never happened. Did you ever see that 10 years ago?
No, that's crazy.
Right?
So how do you try to help people like that? Like to first. Can I even put in 2 cents? Let me see how this
put in 5.
Because, okay, I am one of the smallest businesses possible. You talk about small business, but I'm small. You just seen our office, which is in the basement of my wife's house that I live in here. We run.
You're lean and mean, baby. Lean and mean.
Lean and mean. And when I look at it and trying to solve solutions, problems, finding solutions, to me, that it's a lot easier, and this is why I have respect for you. And even I don't like the other side as much, but I still have some respect trying to solve big problems because I have these little problems, and I try to look at it by training is a big thing, right? You want somebody that works for me to do a better job. It comes down to training and making improvements. And to me, that's a super hard thing to do on scale. We're talking about a whole country here.
Oh, yeah. No,
trying to help people. And because I look at it okay, how do I help people that try and buy and sell their houses? It's the people that work with me, and I train them the best I can so they can give them the best service. And I'm doing that on a small scale, and I'll always have a small brokerage because just to be a realtor, which is not rocket science, it's not brain surgery, but there's still work involved. There's a lot to it, and it takes years to become really good at being able to service people with, this is, to me, the people I'm dealing with, their biggest asset. So I'm not dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars in budgets, but people's houses. It's their biggest thing. And helping them navigate those waters, making the best decisions on how to buy and sell a house in a volatile market, how to maximize the sale price of your house, how to negotiate the lowest thing. Like I said, this is not brain surgery, but to execute that, it comes down to years and years of training, right? And then I try and think, how do you help a country at scale? And it's like training people how to do their jobs, whatever it might be, better. But how do you do that at scale?
Well, I think it starts with sort of the basics. I mean, if you're talking to people about, buying a home and all these other kinds of things, there's basic steps that you would take them through. That's part of your training. Part of the reason for inflation is because we're spending way beyond our means. We're spending
too much.
We're spending money we don't have.
Yeah.
And the Federal Reserve needs to keep, printing that money. And so one of the first things we need to do is, scale back what we're spending and live within our means, right? So you got too few goods chased by too many dollars. That's going to put the price up, right? If we got, only half a dozen goods to buy and we got billions of dollars, they're going to put the price up to get it.
Totally.
So that's basically inflation.
Totally.
So that's the first thing we need to start. The other thing we need to do is we need to reduce some red tape. And I'll just talk about sort of what Pierre wants to do in terms of his plan for housing. He does want to cut the red tape. And I've talked about it before. You and I have been through building a house and, you work with clients and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure you've seen it. It's part of your life. The amount of red tape at the municipal level is insanity. And the amount of taxes they charge for doing absolutely nothing. I live in the country. I have septic. I got to put in my water. I got no services from the town whatsoever. And yet I spend tens and tens of thousands of dollars on development fees, right? I don't know what they developed. We developed the whole blessed thing, for heaven's sakes. So I think that's part of that thing is we got to deal with that stuff. We got to get housing built. We're bringing in about 500,000 people a year and we're building 250,000 homes. So you do the math.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. We got to figure out that equation out. So, what we propose is trying to incentivize cities to build more by giving them bonuses, and those that don't spend more take their money and send it. But NIMBYism is alive and well in every city, not in my backyard. Oh, yeah. No one wants them to do it. I don't want bungalows there. I don't want this. I don't want that, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And so
that happens a lot.
Towns have got to deal with that stuff. I look at a development in our riding. We got all kinds of developments going on in our riding. And I look at, Prudham's Landing, for example, what's going on there. Those guys have been plugging away for years trying to make that stuff happen. And
they haven't put a shovel yet, have they?
They've just been moving dirt around,
Right.
So it doesn't matter. It's the province, it's the municipality. Keep giving them hoops to jump over, and they're dealing with the province on an issue and they change their mind. And it's just, back to the drawing board. And it's that kind of stuff. We got to figure that stuff out because that's what's really causing some of the problems. We talk about it federally. What can we do? It is a local responsibility in terms of how they build stuff and what they allow and land use and all that, what they can do. So we need to cut some red tape. Yeah. And then we've got a number of federal properties that we need to do a better job. They're either not doing much. We could do that for, high-rise housing. We've also said we need to build more high-rise housing close to GO stations and things like that, which makes sense, right? Because you want to get people to work and all those things. And so there's just a number of things, and not one of these things is going to fix the problem, but hopefully over time, it's going to continue to try and listen. It's ridiculous. You go out of the States, they're building homes because I don't think it takes them that long to get permits in certain places at all.
Yeah.
They're building homes like, rabbits. Here, we're like, you look at a project and go, weren't they working on that 2 years ago?
It takes so long.
It's insane.
Yeah, it takes so long. I like what you're saying, though, because it makes sense to me. You got to start, like you said, you got to point the ship in the right direction to start getting it there because these things, it's not going to solve everything overnight, but you can start putting some more money back.
We cut the carbon tax in day one. We put more money in people's pockets.
Yeah, you do.
That honestly makes a difference in driving, in food. Remember, we charge the farmer carbon tax. They have to pay it. We charge the guy that ships the food a carbon tax, and then we got to pay the carbon tax. That's tax on tax on tax by the time we get it at the grocery store.
What's Tax Freedom Day, you said? June whatever? What do you...
I think it was June 23rd last year. I think it's going to be later. I think as the carbon tax goes up, I'm going to guess it's going to be later. So it's almost 6 months. Is that not too much taxation?
No, it's way too much. It's way too much. And I'm trying to think because I feel like taxes are way too high for what we get for them. And
you are a guy that said, I don't mind paying what I need to pay. It's I don't mind paying my way.
Yeah.
Because people need stuff. I get it. We
Yeah.
get hospitals and all that stuff.
We need firefighters. We
Absolutely.
need police officers. We need hospitals. We need teachers. Like, I'm not somebody that says that there should be zero tax. I think, and I don't expect government to run perfectly either, because even private enterprise doesn't run perfect. But there are lots of holes. There's lots.
Hey, let's just say there's room for improvement.
Yeah, lots. Lots. Yeah, you kind of touched on the immigration thing, which I find an interesting one, because that's a balancing act. Because when I look at immigration, I remember thinking of this younger, like as a child, learning how families are having less kids. And even look at Robin and myself. We haven't had kids yet, if we have kids. So to me, it makes sense. And I don't even know if it's what's correct or not, but immigration to bring in people, because I think families are getting smaller than they used to be.
You're bang on. I mean, it's what's the average? 1.7? It's less than 2 kids per family.
Right. Where it used to be more.
That's not replacing yourself.
Right. So. Right. And it used to be way more, I'm sure.
Sure wasn't. Like I said, things are more complicated now. People, need 2 household incomes to earn a living. It's very complicated.
Yeah. So immigration helps balance out the numbers. I'm guessing that's good for the economy, to bring in more people. I don't know how they determine the people.
Our system is, so they have a bunch of categories. They say we bring in some people for business people that need employees. There's a family reunification bucket as well. And then there's this thing called the provincial nominee program. I didn't realize we had this. I learned about it a few years ago, which means there's a number of spots that provinces can determine what they want. So Ontario doesn't need to go to the feds and say, I need A, B, or C. They've got their own program where they can bring in their own people. And so you think about our tech sector, you think about any number of fields that are short of people. This creates some flexibility. And you have to look at that from time to time to make sure you're getting what you need. We used to have a point system. So you could be a PhD, but couldn't speak English, and so you end up driving a cab. Right? So I think that it's important, and I think it's changed over time, and I think you need to constantly look at it.
Yeah,
you got to look at the numbers, you got to look at the needs, all that stuff. You must review it on a regular basis.
Yeah, true.
Because times will change, right?
Totally. Now, okay, to peel it back to a little bit more the basic, we were talking a little bit about Parliament, and to understand the structure a little bit, and it's fine by me if you don't know exact numbers, but how many MPs are there about?
338.
Okay, so you know exactly. That's cool. 338 that meet up at Parliament, and you guys meet up there. I think you were saying 26.
Yeah, but half the year, about 26 weeks. It depends on the schedule, but it's pretty much half the year.
And is a typical day the same thing? What's the typical day there in Parliament? Because Bobby Ann was telling me how it works kind of at Queen's Park, where there's let me see if I can remember. First of all, I think she said the day started with debate, and then I think question period, and then I think it was back to debate or something after.
That's it, basically. Yeah,
something along those lines.
So a number of us on committees. So there's always committee work, and committees will always reflect the ministers. You got a minister of revenue or minister of finance, you have a finance committee. You got a minister of defense, you have a defense committee. You got a trade member, you got a trade minister, you have a trade committee.
How many ministers are there?
There could be 40. Doesn't mean that there's going to be 40 committees.
Okay.
It could be 25, 30 committees. They have a special committee right now in China. There's all kinds of stuff that could be special committees and regular committees.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, every day is pretty much the same. We have question period every day, 2:00 every single day, except Friday because it's a shorter day for people to try and get back to their ridings, and that's at 11 a.m. Every day starts with debate. Every day finishes with debate. What gets debated is determined by the government of the day. So they'll say we're going to debate. It's already passed, C11. We're going to talk about you bad podcasters and what we're going to determine what we think is Canadian enough, et cetera, et cetera.
So crazy.
Exactly. So we'll
I'm
do
going to
that.
write that down so we come back to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what will happen then is that we'll debate. Bills will come up. There's a certain amount of time that they'll debate these things. There's this book, this green book, and it's parliamentary procedures, and it's like this thick, and it aligns everything you need to do, what's required, what you can do. It's fascinating, and if you're having a hard time sleeping, I can get you a copy because it's just about the rules around the House of Commons.
Right.
And it's just like a board meeting on steroids, right? Because you got quorum requirements, you got this, it's crazy.
So much procedure.
So every day sort of starts, Monday's exception, starts at 11. Every other day starts at 10. Question period's at 2. And usually the day ends around 5:30 when you have private members' business. And that's for an hour where members of parliament can have a private member's bill that starts with a draw at the beginning of the year. They draw people's names, just like draw names out of a hat. Mm-hmm. Okay, Dean, 1. Dean, 278 out of 338. Now, ministers can't have a private member's bill, so you take all the ministers off that. So then the list is, it's 300, not 338 or whatever the number will be.
Right.
Maybe it's 297. So this is what happens every single day. What we debate every day, though, changes.
Gotcha. Interesting. And then the one that gets publicized is question period, not the debate, or does it all get put out there?
So CPAC,
yes,
which is a channel, cpac.ca, CPAC.
Yeah, I've
So,
seen that. Yeah,
the Canadian Parliament of Canada, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the acronym's for,
Yeah.
but they actually are on all the time. It's it's publicly funded, all that stuff. You should be able to get it on your dial. And then what gets clipped usually is from question period. That's what gets clipped if you see stuff on the news. And if people tune in for question period, if they're going to tune in for anything.
Right.
Unless it's my mother and she knows I'm speaking, then she'll make sure hey Mom, I'm speaking at 4:30. Okay, she's got the TV on.
She turns
Good.
it
I know one person's watching me. Fantastic.
So now me doing so many videos, I'm curious about how that does work inside. If when I go visit, am I allowed to record in there?
You are not. No.
No recording.
You're not allowed anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to make that mistake.
You're probably going to want to take your phone.
Okay.
Unless you come with me and I've got that, but you can't take it out to give you a crap.
Right.
But the recording in the house, I can go clip anything from anyone that anyone said. It's available to the public as well. It's called Parlview, and you can go on there and you can find proceedings, you can find committees, you can find question period every single day, and
that's available
to the public.
Interesting. So every time you speak, it's not like when I create content, I have a videographer, I have a camera or whatever, but what's happening in there is recorded and then you have access to it if
absolutely.
you want. Yeah. So if you want to post it, because I've seen on your social media, you distribute it, but that's coming from...
I just clip it from Parlview.
And that's allowed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would I be able to use that too?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I believe it's public domain.
Interesting. See, I had no idea how that worked, but I definitely can't capture anything while I'm
There's a lot of YouTubers.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but there's some that actually cut clips.
Yeah.
And then voice over them on YouTube, to talk about what's going on during the course of the day. Yeah, it actually happens.
Interesting. Because yes.
I guess that'd be Canadian content, eh?
Yeah.
Based on C11. That'd be Canadian content enough, hopefully.
Well, okay, C11. So this is censorship, no?
Big time. Yeah, I mean, they want to be able to control what's in your search engine. If they don't like what you are, they'll do, why would you give it? See, we know censorship happens. It happened during COVID. It happens all the time.
Right.
So the reality is, why would not the best rise to, what's going on? But you don't want to have a CRTC or some government organization determining what people should see and not see. That's censorship.
Yeah, I don't love that. And I'm trying to think, I make a lot of content, and I tried thinking about this on a basic level with myself, right? Where I can understand where if I post a video and one of the platforms, it goes against their guidelines, I can understand how they might not like it. Like I've done before. I don't know where you stand on this, and we don't even need to get on. For 420, I've posted some videos of myself smoking weed before. And on TikTok, it wasn't allowed. And I don't get upset by that, because if that's their guidelines and for some reason they think that's not going to be good for kids or whatever, I get it, right? And then I think about like my comment section. I think I've talked to you about this before, but in my comment section, I get a mix of good and bad comments, and it is very seldom where I will block somebody from commenting.
Right.
And I don't do it. I will if I've engaged somebody a number of times and they're just constantly
being
negative.
a troll.
Yeah, if they're just trolling and like they don't want to have
trolls out there. It doesn't matter what you say; they don't care. They're just here to stir the pot.
Yeah, and like I even like have had conversations with trolls before, and I try to have a reasonable conversation to see like what's driving them to be that way. And sometimes a good conversation comes out, sometimes not. But just getting to censorship, it's rare that I'll go to the block, but I've done it. But then I try to think about like things like, during COVID, I know it seemed like there was a lot of information that was getting censored and everything. I don't know if we need to get into stuff like that, but then I like to think that it's good for a lot of people to put out content that they want to talk about. And if people don't like it, don't consume it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it should. And the other bill that went along with that was C-18. C-18 was the Online News Act, where they were saying that now Facebook, because they gave Facebook an option, they put a gun to their head and said, you pay us this or don't post. And they said, okay, we won't post. So if I have a news story and I want to post it to Facebook, it won't post.
Right. I've had this on Instagram.
Absolutely.
I've tried
Instagram, Facebook. You can still post on Twitter. I think you can post on LinkedIn. But yeah, you just can't post. So think about this for a second.
Yeah.
Independent news agencies like whatever it is, Niagara This Week, small guys.
Yeah.
They may be owned by the big guys, but they're still small guys.
Yeah.
Producing content for the local community.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, they wanted their stories to get posted and shared because that's how people found out
of course,
about what they're doing. There's a magazine or an independent called the Niagara Independent. And I love their stuff. They're more conservative minded. Mm-hmm. And they share their stuff on an email link, but I can't post their stuff to Facebook or to Instagram. And I think that it's those people that suffer because how are they going to get their message out? The big guys are always going to be around. Yeah, the big guys should pay their fair share, whatever that is. But that's not what it's about. These guys have done a deal with the devil, and now they're not posting news. And I think the little guys are the ones that are going to get screwed.
So when they came out with this, I'm guessing this was the Liberals.
Of course.
Right? So
all good ideas come from them.
So what was there when they came out with C11, whatever it exactly is, this censorship stuff? What were they saying that they're trying to accomplish with it?
They want big tech to pay their fair share.
They want big tech to pay their fair share.
So the question is, what is the fair share? What's reasonable? What is that stuff? They want to censor them and tell them what they can do and what they can't.
But okay, they say that, but then like I've tried to post something and they say your government won't let you do this.
Correct.
But I'm not big tech.
No, you're not. But that's part of the deal. They said the libs said you pay us or else we don't want you to post content
on their platform.
Right. So they're saying, okay, we won't post. And the only one that hurts, it's not going to hurt Facebook. It's going to hurt the little guy that needs other people to see his stuff, to see some traffic.
It hurts.
And get some views.
It hurts them. And the thing that I don't like either, there's so much, I'm not going to disagree with misinformation out there, but to stop.
But it's everywhere, right?
To stop whether it's true or not. I don't know what, to me, it just seems like control. It doesn't seem like they're trying to do something right when I see that.
Well, and let's remember, when you and I see an article, it is incumbent upon us to search from where the article came from, who wrote it. Mm-hmm. People send you stuff all the time, I'm sure. I got people send me stuff nonstop.
All day.
And some of it's good, some of it's garbage, some of it's true, some of it's not true. So, it's my job before I pass that along, if I'm going to pass it along, is to verify the source.
Totally.
If I don't verify the source and I pass it along, then I'm the idiot.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
But it makes sense. And there's, a few times someone sends an article that's true, but then you look at the date and it was last year. So we were already mad about that last year. Why are we being mad about it this year? Just stuff like that. Like it could be something as simple as true information that we talked about that last year. Let it go. Like we're on to something else now, right?
Yeah.
I've seen that before. Oh yeah, I should have checked the date first. Like I've done that. I made a mistake because it's the Globe and Mail, it's the National Post. This is a legit source.
Yeah.
Oh, except it's not. It's timestamp, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. something that I was thinking about was being at the federal level. You like when you say bill means law. Is that
a bill? Yeah, exactly.
So these
are the laws of the land. These are the laws that affect your life, my life, and all Canadians' lives.
So how does a law get created?
So what happens is a government decides on their agenda what they're going to do or what they promised during the last campaign or what they think needs to happen. And then what they do is they work with lawyers and constitutional people, stuff to make sure it works. So I had a private member's bill about vaccine mandates, 278. And so what I did was I worked with Parliament and their officers to say, okay, you can do that, but my bill affected the Transportation Act. My bill affected federal civil servants. So there's all these acts that govern that stuff. And so if I just say, hey, I think it's wrong if you're not vaccinated not to be able to get on a train or a plane, they're saying, well, wait a second. There's more to it because you have to amend other things.
Right.
So I got a buddy that had a bill called C234. That bill is to remove the carbon tax on farmers heating their barns and drying their grain.
Okay.
It passed the House of Commons and it passed the Senate, and now it's back for third reading. I'll go back to how you get a bill passed. And what happened is now the senators, because they've been told by their liberals, now the senators are supposed to be independent, that they want them to kill the bill. So they're doing it. They're doing it all ass backwards. They're saying, "Oh, we support it. We didn't kill the bill," and then they're trying to get the independent senators to do something, which is completely wrong. So last week, before break, they interrupted debate. So it's like, well, you told the world you're in support of this bill. Once again, this would help farmers in the price that we pay in the stores. It makes a lot of sense. Food's a necessity for living. So that's what happened. So my point is, we get someone to help us draft this.
Yeah.
It'd be no different if you're a government. Government legislation takes preference over everything. They draft it, and then what they do is they bring it forward. You read it in the House once. That's first reading.
So would that be during debate or question period?
Always during debate.
Debate.
Yeah, and there's a certain time when you can do that. So
during debate, you would be like, I have this reading I want to do. I want to propose. Like how is it?
Exactly it.
Yeah.
During the read, so they have this thing. There's a standing orders of the day.
Okay.
And so what happens is that during routine proceedings, these are all just insider baseball names, but before they get to debate, they'll spend 15 minutes, statements by ministers, state reports from committees. Just this, you would all be in that big green book.
Right.
There's a chance for any private members' bills you want to bring it forward, any government bills that you could read it the first time. So same process.
It gets read the first time.
And then that's it.
Okay.
It's got to be brought back to read a second time. If it passes, then it needs to go to committee.
And when you say pass, what does that mean?
All the House has to vote on it. The majority of the House.
The 338 people?
Or majority of the 338.
Have to say yes.
Yes, for it to move on to the next stage.
So that happens during debate. There's a vote. And how is a vote done? Is it done with hands? Is it done electronically?
It's a standing count.
Standing.
So when it's your turn, you're voting yay or nay.
Yeah.
You stand up.
And then there's a couple of people that count.
There's people that actually call your name out. These officer clerks of the House officers are phenomenal. They know everybody's name.
Wow.
It's insane. They're amazing people. So they stand up, Mr. Allison, yay, Mr. Allison, nay, whatever the case may be.
Right.
So that's second reading.
So first reading's proposal, then everybody gets to digest it a bit. Second one, there's a vote.
Second vote, there's debate.
Debate and a vote.
We're bringing it, debate and a vote.
Yeah.
If that vote passes,
which is a majority yays.
Majority yays, then it goes to committee.
Okay.
I mean, it needs to go to committee to talk about those things. Maybe there's some amendments proposed. Maybe they want to change the bill. Once that happens, if that works, they bring it back for third reading. More debate, then a vote. If it's passed, then it gets pushed off to the Senate. Exactly the same thing happens there. Same process all over again.
So what's Senate? What's that mean?
The Senate, that's those old guys and girls sitting at the end of the. So they're the ones that are not elected. They're appointed.
How many of them are there?
I think it's 103.
100-ish. Okay.
100-ish, yeah.
Gotcha. And then they go through
same process.
3 readings.
Yep. And committee work if it needs to be committee.
So then when it goes to Senate, if you back at the first debate brought it up that you wanted it there, and then it makes it there. Who's like talking on for or against it at Senate then?
Well, then that would be part of what you would do. We've got some conservative senators, independents, all that kind of stuff. So you'd try and find people that would champion the bill for you.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Just like if they started a bill in the Senate, they wanted something to champion in the House, it'd be the same thing.
Oh, stuff gets started there and then pushed down?
Yep. Yeah, but government legislation, not private members' bills, not Senate bills, always takes priority. Always.
Interesting. So then the Senates, you said, are appointed.
Yes.
And so they're appointed, like, how does, this is all interesting. Who appoints them?
So it used to be appointed by the Prime Minister.
Okay.
All
of them?
All of them. They're not voted on. What we proposed was an elected... What we proposed was an elected Senate. So you have your elections in your provinces, you pick them, and then we'll put them in the Senate for you. Only Alberta did that. Nobody else would do that. So what happened is Trudeau set up an independent committee, but he's basically all appointed Liberals. Like it's a scam.
Yeah. Eh?
Totally. No, 100%.
Wow.
So these independent, if they were independent, why would the Liberals be telling them to kill my buddy's bill?
Right.
To C234, which is to take the carbon tax off of heat and cooling barns and drying grain. Makes no sense.
There's so much stuff.
Oh, no, we'll have to spend another hour talking about the way things run in Parliament.
So, okay, just to keep going. So it goes to Senate, goes through 3 readings, and if it gets approved there, now we have a law or a bill.
Yeah.
So
once it's approved there, then it's if they make changes, it comes back to the House. We have to approve it, and it gets sent back there again. And once they approve it, then it needs to get royal assent. That's how a bill becomes law.
That's the last step is royal assent.
Yeah.
And then that's just somebody rubber stamping
it,
basically.
The Governor General. Yeah.
Governor General.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then, so how long would that take ish? I know it would depend on a few different things.
So there's certain requirements in terms of that book about how long people can debate, how long they can speak for, all that kind of stuff. Typically what happens is the Liberals will ask for closure while you're debating it, which means just cutting off debate.
Shut it down.
Yeah. So they do that all the time when they want to pass something so it can happen quicker.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
in all fairness, we did that before,
yeah.
But they were so indignant that we did that. They said they would never do it. So what does that make them? Hypocrites. They've probably done it more than we actually did. So don't say, don't do it. We won't do it if you're going to do it. That's all.
See, there's got to be things that I agree with on that side, but they do a lot of things that I don't agree with, and I see them saying things that... Well,
it's a different party now than it used to be, right?
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's like in the last, since you've been in?
No, it's a lot different than, guys like Chrétien and before that. I mean, I think most of them, we didn't agree on everything, but I think they agreed on, doing what's best for the country.
Right.
I don't believe this guy does it all.
Yeah.
Not for a second.
I know. I don't.
It's all about him. He's a narcissist, right? So that's the issue.
I've lost. Yeah. You say that, and I used to be more patriotic, and I don't know. It's too far gone since
he's divided people. He's divided provinces. He's divided families. He's a great divider, and that makes it tough to feel proud about something. You can't divide people.
You can't. To me, that all that stuff that has happened, I hate to think that just one person or one party can make me lose my patriotism. But it does. It happens where I'm not proud of that.
Right. You're not proud of the things your country does. It makes it tough, right?
Yeah. And that's what I'm nervous about, being completely honest, when you guys do get in, because it'll happen eventually whenever. I'm nervous that it will still take a long time before I gain that back, because it's not for me. And I don't speak for anybody other than myself. When you guys get in, it doesn't mean all of a sudden I'm going to be proud to be Canadian again.
No, you got to earn that trust back, right?
Yeah, it takes time. You got to earn that trust.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the issue of separation with Quebec in the past, it was always higher, in my opinion, when Liberals were in charge, and it was never an issue when we were in charge.
Interesting,
because we worked with the provinces.
Interesting,
and even Alberta. Alberta's so unhappy with the way they're being treated right now. That, I worry about Alberta as well.
There's something going on with CPP or something.
Yeah, they want to pull out of CPP. So
Are we going to talk about that at all?
we'll have to come back and talk about that another time. It's because it's complicated, right?
That must be.
Yeah.
That must be a one. Yeah, I heard them talking about that. And yeah, it did. It reminded me of Quebec, because Quebec tried to separate twice, I think, in my lifetime. I don't know if it's happened more than that.
And like I said, when a province is so unhappy they want to leave, that tells you that the leader's not doing a good job.
Yeah.
He's dividing the country and not unifying the country.
Yeah, totally. So what's another thing? Content laws. Yeah, that's the content stuff. I definitely find interesting that you can just pull whatever, because that, I think I told you before, there's a part of me that thinks at some point I might go into politics. I'm not sure because sometimes when I talk to like you and other people, I'm like, it interests me so much. And then other times I'm like, man, like it seems like it's such a tough process. Like,
well, it's like I said, when I first got elected, I had to win a nomination, right? So you pick a party, talking about process again. Yeah. And I had 3 other guys I ran against. I won the nomination. And then you got to win. Then you got to win the election. Well, I didn't win that election.
Hold on. Just to clarify that, when you say win the nomination, that's because it would be other representatives.
It was an open seat. It was an open seat. No one was a sitting member.
So that means like this is that to win, to be the person to run for the Conservatives. Yeah. That doesn't even mean that.
No, it doesn't mean you're going to win the seat. So right now the Liberals in Niagara West don't have a candidate. So they'll have a nomination and try and get people to run for that spot.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's what normally happens when you don't hold the seat.
Interesting.
So at that time, remember back in 2000, we had 2 seats in Ontario. 2 seats. That was it.
That's it.
We were shut out completely. So no one was that eager to try and run because, we got our butts kicked, right?
Right.
Get it just. But see, that's what happens. That's why democracy, although it's not always perfect, works, because when people aren't happy, they vote the bums out of office.
Yeah,
you heard them say that, right?
Yeah, totally.
And that's what makes us different from countries that are run by dictatorships. That's what's different by when things happen, is that we have a say. Maybe people come up to me, I'm so unhappy with Justin Trudeau, I want to call the Governor General, I want to sign a petition. I said, well, go for it, but none of it matters, right? Because the only thing that matters is an election. That's the way it works. But people don't understand. I don't fault them. I don't give them a hard time.
Yeah.
I don't say that's a stupid question, because people don't understand the process. It's helpful to help people understand.
Then
so I don't
that's
get
what
mad.
I'm working on.
I just say, well, I go ahead, sign your petition, call the Governor General, but it won't do anything, right? Because there's a process set up in Canada. Good, bad, or indifferent, it's a process we have. And if people are still unhappy with the government of the day when the election comes, they vote him out. I think there's a saying that says most governments are defeated, not elected. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. People are like, I'm not really happy. Mm-hmm. I think we need change.
Totally.
Time for change. You've heard all those things.
Yeah.
And I think, we don't have term limits in Canada. If you're in the States as a leader, president, governor, term limits, 2 term limits, 8 years.
Here it's not that way.
No, but we tend to get rid of our leaders around 8 or 9 years if they make it that long.
Right.
Right. So I think people have a way of figuring out the system, and, people figure it out. And like, I'm a conservative, and I can't believe they voted for that guy in the last election, but people will start to come to the realization.
I think so. I hear a lot. I hear it more now that there's more people frustrated with the way things are going.
Because people are having a hard time. People are starving. Like, food banks are overrun. People can't afford home. They can't afford rent. We got 10 cities. There's so many things.
Yeah.
And someone's got to take responsibility.
I even hear it amongst people that lean more red.
Absolutely.
That's where, because when you hang around the same circles, I don't, you might have this out where you are too, but for me, if you hang out in the same circles, you just echo chamber hearing the same type of things. But when I talk to people that are more left leaning, because I talk to everyone, right? And
Pierre is leading in every category: young people, women.
I believe
and he's really speaking to young people because young people are frustrated. They've gone to school, they got debt, they're never going to move out of their parents' basement. He's speaking to young people,
and he speaks well. I'm impressed.
He's a great leader.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm optimistic, but still,
that's right.
Like I said, I'm still
you gotta run hard right to the finish line.
Yeah,
right? Wherever the finish line is.
Yeah, no doubt. Now I've had Bobby Ann on, yourself. At some point, I would love to have somebody from a Liberal or NDP or even one of the other parties on here. I haven't reached out to any of them yet. I'm hoping that, I don't know how the conversation would go when talking to somebody where we probably have some of the same underlying beliefs about wanting the best, just different executions. Right. I wonder how that will
That's
go.
what politics is all about, right?
Because when you sit on a committee, like circling back to that, committees are made up of not just conservatives.
Yeah, it's made up of like the representation of the House.
So then
you get 10 members, the Liberals will have more members, but they won't have the majority. It's the same makeup percentage-wise as is in the House.
So when you're on a committee, like you guys meet and you guys discuss on how, like how does that work and what's that?
It just depends on the topic. It depends on what's going on. Some committees are pretty contentious because there's contentious issues. They're talking about the ArriveCan app and people like spending $54 million, and then it's probably rocking and rolling, right? It's rocking and rolling, right?
Things get heated.
Absolutely. So it just always depends on the committee.
And then, so like, what's a committee meeting like then? What's that? Is it the same type of?
Yeah, it's like I said, you sit around a table, like a boardroom table, it's a committee table.
And
you have a chair. You have a chair. You have translation, instantaneous translation, and you have a guy working the. I'll show you when you come down.
Yeah. Because I find that interesting, because I'd like to see some conversations between opposite parties. I know these chairs are not the greatest, I know.
Like 20-minute chairs like Tim Hortons, but we're way past 20 minutes.
I know. Well, I won't keep you hostage for that much longer, but I'd find that interesting. It's just like when I have somebody, I really hope that I haven't reached out to anybody from the other parties yet, but I'm really hoping one of them will sit down here so I can have conversations, because myself, like, I can have conversations with people that have different beliefs without like getting into an argument. Like,
absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to it, because the best conversations I've ever had in my life, Dean, is when people can change my mind over something.
Sure.
And that happens because even though I'm a stubborn Portuguese guy and I have my beliefs, I'm still open-minded.
Sure.
That
convince me that something's better or different or makes more sense, right?
Yeah. And like, I don't need to engage in necessarily a debate with them, but I'd love to see some perspective, because I find it interesting when I talk to people. Like, I love talking to you because we see things a lot the same way, but I find it interesting because when I talk to somebody with completely different beliefs or whatever, I get a little more perspective in how they get there. Yep. And like, I can only imagine what that'd be like when it's not so much a heated conversation, to see somebody else's perspective, right or wrong, on why they're drawing those conclusions. And that, I imagine that's kind of cool in committee.
Yeah, and I think, once again, this guy is very divisive, this prime minister. And so I think there's been more acrimony this time than there has been in the past, right?
Yeah.
And that's just that's part of what, the leader always sets the tone, right, for the way people are going to respond. But I think at the end of the day, it's always good to have, it'd be nice if you could get a Lib NDP, some of the sitting, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. There's no NDP down here federally, but there's a bunch, 3 of them provincially, in different ridings, and you got a couple Libs down here. You got a couple of guys that are in St. Catharines and Welland, right? So, yeah.
I'm not sure. I've got a couple just fun-ish questions to play out before we end, but I don't know if there's anything that you want to touch on. We touched on some good stuff here.
Yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job. I mean, the nice I love politics. I love talking politics. I go to a party and people say, "Oh, you don't want to talk politics?" I said, "Man, that's my job. If I didn't love talking politics, I'm in the wrong job. If I start talking to you about houses, you go, I don't want to talk about that's my job. You know that you're in the wrong job, right?
I know. So I get that too.
And you could talk for hours because there's so many infinite possibilities on every single issue.
The different layers.
Right.
I know. That's why, I mean, at a different time, if getting more specific on anything, if you'd ever come back, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. No, it'd be great.
Yeah, because I'm still now, over the past few months, I'm myself starting to understand the picture more of how things work. I'm still not there. I feel like I've got this like a picture painted rough to understand.
Well, you're just starting to fill in some of the details now.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting to see that. yeah, I'll get into some lighthearted ones. There's one question I ask everybody, and it's if you were on death row, what would your death row meal be? I hope that never happens.
Yeah, it would be pizza.
Seriously?
Absolutely. My favorite meal of all time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, definitely. No, there's no questions. I don't want prime rib or,
no.
I like steaks, fine, all that stuff, but it's pizza for sure.
So then what would be on it?
Pepperonis, mushrooms, and ham, and double cheese.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. What else?
I won't waste it on Hawaiian, but I like Hawaiian too. I have no problem with that.
I love Hawaiian. I love pineapple.
I don't like a ton of stuff. I'm like the pizza that I'm going to treat you to in Ottawa is it's called the combination. It's got mushroom, pepperoni, and green pepper. And it's all buried in cheese, and it's awesome. So, I mean, like I said, it's not like I won't eat other things. I prefer ham over bacon because sometimes bacon's too fatty.
Yeah.
So, and some ham, I don't want big chunks.
I feel you.
I like canned mushrooms, but I like fresh mushrooms. I like them both.
Yeah.
When I go to Handlebar Hanks, I got a choice: fresh mushrooms or.
They do both.
They do both.
Oh wow, that's
and
impressive.
I think they do both pepperonis as well, but I'm not sure because I haven't been there for a while. No pizza for me for the last 4 weeks. So that definitely. I like it plain. I mean, I'd be happy with the pepperoni pizza too. I think less is more. I'll eat a meat eater pizza. I'll do all that stuff, but my go-to pizza: double cheese, pepperoni, mushrooms, ham.
I like it. What else? I mean, death row meal. It could be more than just one thing. If you wanted some more, well. Like my death row meal I'd fill this table with all kinds of stuff. And
Goodies, yeah.
Yeah.
I like milkshakes for sure. Vanilla milkshake. Nothing too fancy.
Yeah.
Vanilla milkshake does the trick.
Nice. Who makes a good one? I haven't had a milkshake in a while.
Let's see listen, I
make one at home.
Yeah, I like one at home, and in the summer when the hungry putter's going or something, there's a couple that they do the trick.
I like it. So that's the normal question I ask everybody, and I was thinking about some just quick ones. Not that we have to follow apart on them, but death row meal follows up like a question I want to ask people. What do you like on your pizza? It lines in there.
Yeah, already there.
Favorite kind of music or era of music?
Oh man, I mean, growing up, so I was born in 65 when I could get into a bar. 75, 85, 83.
Back then.
80s, baby. I mean, the 80s are awesome.
Rock?
I like rock. I like, I got a huge genre. I love Mamma Mia. I love the Bee Gees. I love rock. I love it all.
Nice.
I love gospel. I got a classical, everything.
Yeah.
But I remember being 18 or 19 in a bar, probably 19 being in a bar, and Michael Jackson Thriller, the video had just come out. It was that was one of the greatest things. I was when the videos were just starting
awesome.
MTV was just starting to happen in a big way. It was phenomenal. I remember being at a bar watching Thriller. That was like a work of art. Like 15 minutes or whatever it was.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
80s definitely. But I like a bunch of genres, like lots of stuff, like England Dan, John Ford Cole, like a lot of 70s. I'm very flexible. I got a big palate for music.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. Travel somewhere you want to go that you haven't been.
That is a great question.
Is there anywhere that you haven't been yet that you want to see?
I've been to a few places for sure.
Yeah.
I have never really been to South America in a big way. I've been to Colombia, which is a fascinating country. Was there when they were signing the peace deal with the guerrillas and so we should come back and talk about that sometime. Phenomenal experience.
Yeah. I'll write that down for later.
Yeah. And then, but I I don't have a burning desire to go to Chile, but I'd love to go to South America.
Yeah.
There's still a few countries I haven't seen in Europe.
So maybe one of your favorite ones.
Italy. Yeah. I haven't been to Italy.
Yeah, me neither.
And I haven't been to Spain. I've been to Portugal. Phenomenal trip.
Yeah.
But Italy is definitely on the list. I was supposed to go twice in 1 year for business and a wedding, and I had to cancel both because of work. So Italy's number one. That's where I want to go.
Italy's up there for
great
me
food and
try their pizza.
Everything's and everything's different. There's so many great places to see.
I hear a lot of places there. They eat the pizza with fork and knife, so it's a different experience.
I can do that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not against a fork and knife. I'm not prejudiced against the fork and knife.
Me neither. I would do it.
When the pizza's so hot, fork and knife to get started.
I like this one. These are questions I haven't asked anybody, so you're my test subject with this. Who was a big role in helping you shape who you are today?
I would say definitely my father.
Nice.
And my parents, really, in general.
Nice.
Right? They gave me kind of like a moral compass, grew up in church. Didn't always go to church, but grew up in church.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, so that was good. And then I've had mentors along the way, which has always been pretty cool as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because Dean, you're a good guy. So like that question, I think that's a good one, but I'm not surprised for you to say parents for you.
Yeah.
I think that when people can have good parents influence their lives, I think that really helps.
Well, I think the other thing too is that our time with our parents, we don't always give them credit where credit's due. Meaning, if you think about really who you and I are sometimes, a lot of it comes, our quirks or idiosyncrasies come from our mom or dad. Like, they like certain things. And
totally.
We don't want to admit that we're like our mom or dad, but we are, because that's part of their influence, right?
Yeah. Last one. And then we'll shut her down. If you won $1 billion, what would you do?
$1 billion. That's a lot of money.
I know.
Let's see.
This is even tougher for me asking you.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think I would still go to work.
Yeah, that's good.
I would definitely give a bunch of it away to charities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I would try and help my kids out and my family. Anyone that needs help within my circle of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a
definitely.
solid answer.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
It would be nice. Those trips that are like, we all go on trips and we got certain budgets, right? So we can still go on a nice trip, but maybe you want to stay at the Four Seasons, but you can only afford the Marriott, kind of thing.
Upgrade.
I upgrade and take the whole family with you, right?
Yeah.
Like that would be smoking. We had a great trip before COVID. During COVID, we were in Orlando, and I invited my mom and my brother from Vancouver, my sister. We rented a 10 or 12 room house in Orlando, and that was awesome. But COVID came, and they were talking about shutting the borders, and people went home early because we didn't know. Today, if I knew it, I would have stayed down there for a couple of weeks, realizing the whole world was shut down back here. It wasn't not like I was going to do anything when I got here, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was. It would involve a trip of epic proportions with all of my family.
That's a good one. I like it. This was great.
That's good.
Dean, I really appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime into the All Right Robin's house here, into Right Choice Media Room. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, I like it. This was good.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.